Hi, my name is Jonathan Schecter. I'm a transformation coach, breathwork and meditation facilitator, and founder of Blue Magic Alchemy. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the theory and principles of breathwork, some of the types of experiences that you might have, and breathing instructions, and basically how to prepare yourself for one of my Breathwork for Transformation online sessions. In breathwork, you're able to access an expanded state of consciousness, get out of the way of your monkey mind, and connect to your inner intelligence. This is the same amazing intelligence that allows our bodies to take care of all of our internal processes every second of every day to keep us alive. We just don't normally have conscious connection to that. And even if we do, it might be a very weak internal voice that's really not loud enough to make itself heard. And by doing breath work on a regular basis, along with the physical and emotional releases that you might experience, one of the things that you're doing is strengthening the neural pathways to this internal intelligence so that you'll become able to access it more consistently on a moment-to-moment basis in your life just by taking a few deep breaths. Participants report experiences such as getting insights to issues in their lives, improving their relationships with their friends and family, feeling less isolated and more connected to the world, and with consistent practice, being more present, which makes it possible to make their best choices for themselves and their families on a moment-to-moment basis. So within this video, I'll be going over some principles, how to do the breath work, what you might expect, and anything else that you need to really prepare yourself for one of my online breathwork sessions. So let's jump into it. Now you might think, well, let's start with the breath work. And we'll definitely get to that in a second. The breathing, the breath work itself, is not the point of the practice. The breath work is the vehicle that gets you to the expanded states of consciousness that you can experience. So within this form of breath work, there's three important principles to remember. The first one is to trust the process. We want to develop that connection with that inner intelligence, like I mentioned before. And we spend a lot of time disconnected from it in the left side of the mind and the thinking mind. And this trust doesn't come from the mind. It's not a thinking process. It's a being. It's something that we can drop into. It's something that we can connect with if we get out of the way of the thinking mind. So the most important thing to remember is to trust the process. There's this great analogy within breathwork that when I get a cut on my finger, I don't have to send white blood cells to fix my finger up. You know, my body knows how to heal that cut on its own. And in the same way, when we connect to that inner intelligence, our psyche, that inner intelligence knows what we need. One of the things that we're doing within the breathwork process is getting out of the way of our thinking minds. And this is an invitation to practice trusting the process, giving yourself permission to allow that inner intelligence to come forth. So I invite you to let go of expectations and let yourself be surprised. Really give yourself permission. And another way to say giving yourself permission is the second principle, which is surrender. Now, surrender goes along with trusting the process. It's not giving up. We're opening to the experience. Oftentimes the blocks and stuck issues and the reasons that we might be interested in doing breath work will begin to release the moment we stop resisting and fully surrender. It's about giving yourself permission and really going through whatever it is that's coming up. And that leads me to the third principle, which is that the way past is through. Another thing that we say within breathwork is that what you resist persists. So we're really giving ourselves permission to experience the full spectrum of the human condition. And the invitation is there to embrace both painful and joyful experiences. Let's talk about the breathing itself. We're going to start with full, deep diaphragmatic breaths in and out of the mouth, really feeling the belly rising with each in breath. We really want to connect to this sensation in the belly, and we want the breath to start from the belly. Although you're going to be breathing a little bit faster and a little bit deeper than you normally would, it's important to still start your breath in the belly. So the way that it looks like is as you can see, we want the belly moving first. I like to think of pouring water into a glass. The water doesn't stay in the middle portion, right? First, it goes all the way to the bottom and then continues to fill. And in the same way, we want the breath to start with the belly and then filling up the chest and maybe even into the neck. But what you don't want is, as your breath increases in speed, to be breathing just up here. Right? That's what we don't want to do. And oftentimes when we're not used to deeper diaphragmatic breathing, that's what we kind of resort to as the breath gets faster. So although I'll be cueing you during the breathwork session to breathe a little bit faster and deeper than you normally do, it's more important, I think, especially when you first start doing this practice, to focus on breathing deeper rather than faster. You can always increase your speed. So we want to take full, deep diaphragmatic breaths in and out of the mouth to start. And we want to breathe a little bit faster than usual, definitely focusing on those deep breaths. And this is the most important instruction here, is breathing continuously with no gaps. We don't want any pause between the in-breath and the out-breath. We want to create a nice circle with our breath, always breathing in or breathing out. So again, what that looks like is okay. So focusing on breathing deeper, breathing continuously with no gaps, and breathing a little bit faster than you normally would. And you can adjust that speed as you need. Now, when you first start, make sure that you're breathing through the mouth. However, most people, after the first 15 to 20 minutes of the practice, something's going to happen that we call dropping in. Okay. Once you've dropped in, you're not really going to be thinking about breathing so much. You're not going to be thinking, am I doing this right? It's almost like you're going to stop actively breathing and your body will be breathing you. And this is where trusting the process comes in, trusting the wisdom of your body. Your breath might change once you've dropped in. Your breath might fluctuate with the music. It might go in waves. You might instinctively hold your breath, or your breath might slow down a lot. It might almost feel like you're sleeping, almost like a yoga nidra state. Okay. Now, once you've dropped in and you're not thinking about, am I doing this right? Whatever happens to your breath is totally fine. That might mean that you go back to breathing through your nose. That might mean that you instinctively hold the breath. Remember that the breath is meant to help you drop into the deeper experience. If you start to release emotions or you're having some sort of journey, don't worry about whether you're doing the breathing right. In fact, if you've really dropped in, you won't be thinking about it at all. So in the beginning, it might look like you're doing the breathing and you're sitting there and you're like, am I doing this right? I don't like this song. How much longer is this? Why did I join? That monkey mind, that ego defense will still be up. But then once you drop in, which again, Might be as early as 5 minutes. It might be 20 to 30 minutes. Everybody's different. And the better you get at surrendering and just trusting the process, the easier it'll be to drop in. But whenever you feel that monkey mind coming back online, let's say in the middle of the breathing, you can always go back to breathing in and out of the mouth in that circular manner. So remember that the breath is there to support you and help you get to the deeper state. So a good analogy for the breathing is it's like riding a bike through the mountains. Sometimes you're pedaling uphill and you're really working. Other times you're just coasting downhill and enjoying the scenery. And just remember that if you get stuck, rely on the breathing technique. Circular breath in and out of the mouth, a little bit deeper, a little bit faster. No gaps between your in and your out breath. So there's another important reason that I recommend focusing on breathing deeper and rhythmically rather than breathing fast at the beginning. And we'll get into that during this section, which is types of experiences that you might have during breath work. So you definitely can have some sensory experiences. You might get hot, you might get cold, and that's regardless of the ambient temperature in your house. You might feel energy moving, especially in the chakra centers or your limbs. You might feel like buzzing. There can definitely be different types of releases that come up. One of those ways is emotional release. So you might find yourself laughing, crying, yelling, feeling like emotions like anger, fear, sadness, joy coming up. And again, just allow those to be there. Really trust the process. When there's energy, and emotions are an energy, right? When there's energy that gets suppressed in the body, when there's emotions that get suppressed in the body, there's always an energetic tension or block that's attached to it. And so the body can release these blockages in different ways. It might get numb, and then the feeling will come back. That's where some of those temperature changes can come from. And you might get something called tetany, which is very common, but it's really important to talk about so that it doesn't freak you out if you experience it. So tetany is an extreme cramping of the hands, sometimes of the feet. It's very common. A lot of people get it. I myself have gotten it many times. So it's important to remember that it's very common. It will definitely go away on its own. It will not continue after the breath work's done. It's important to remember that while tetany may be uncomfortable, it's a fantastic gateway into healing. It's an opportunity to move through something and allow it to complete. And the fact that it's coming up means that the body and that inner intelligence feels safe to express it, right? So just remember that the way past is through and to trust the process. However, if you don't feel like you're able to handle it in this moment, there's a couple of different things you can do. The first and most important is slow the breath down. This is another reason why I recommend starting deep and rhythmically rather than breathing fast, because the faster that you breathe, the more likely it is from a physiological perspective that tetany will come on. So the analogy I like to give is like the breath can be like driving in a race car or driving in a comfortable sedan. When you're speeding around in the race car, breathing as fast as you can, you might get where you're going a couple minutes sooner, but the ride's going to be more bumpy. You might feel some of that tetany. The changes to the body can be more extreme. Driving in the sedan is more like the way I like to instruct people, focusing on breathing deeply, breathing rhythmically, and using the speed as needed, because you're going to get to exactly the same place. The ride's going to be a little bit more comfortable. So there can also be spiritual type experiences. Oftentimes people report that these breathwork experiences are very psychedelic. In fact, it's what attracted me to breathwork when I first started practicing. So it's very normal to, see colors or patterns, have other visions or downloads, and get insights. You might even feel like you might even be visited by different beings. All of this is very possible within the expanded state that you're reaching through breath work. Now, I mentioned dropping in, and for most of you, you're just going to be able to drop in very quickly with little to no effort, as long as you're following the breathing practice. And if you do, that's awesome. Just let the journey take you wherever it might. For others, you might find it challenging to drop in and really allow the mind to let go. Sometimes that ego mind doesn't like to relinquish control. So you might feel fear, anxiety, sleepiness, avoidance, distraction, things like that. It's important to remember that whatever you're experiencing is your process. And the more that you can accept whatever is happening and go into it, the more likely you'll be able to drop in. But if you're having some challenges getting there, here's a few tips. First of all, if there's an emotional component to that stuck feeling or that resistance, lean into it. This is the opposite of what we usually do, right? Usually we get away from it. We push away the uncomfortable feelings that might be coming up. This is an opportunity to really let it be as big as you want it to be. This is an opportunity to let it be as big as it wants to be. If there is anger, let yourself get angry. If there's fear, let yourself be afraid. Just really lean into it. Okay? Allow movement in your body. You might sit up. I don't recommend standing up, but let yourself be moved by the music. And last, make sound. Let yourself express through sound. And so all these things can be sort of used in tandem as well. I recommend having some extra pillows, like alongside of where you're laying down. So if you need to kind of get some of that movement in, you're safe and protected. If you're afraid of being too loud or there's other people in your house, that's another thing that a pillow can be helpful for. To cover your face. You might keep a towel that you can use close by. But making sound is strongly encouraged. The music is powerful. It's meant to support the journey. It's meant to be evocative. Don't be surprised if you feel it helping bringing up emotional material. It will start to slow down towards the second half, final third of the breathwork program. And it's important not to stop in the middle. The slower music is some of the most important, and it will help support the integration. It's also recommended that you keep your eyes closed until I bring you out of the breathing experience at the end. Obviously, if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, you can, but some people like to use an eye mask. Try to keep your eyes closed for the entire experience. Now, if you get completely stuck and you need support, you've tried making noise and moving and leaning in and letting that emotion be as big as possible, you can send me a message in the chat. I'm here to support you. But I will say, out of about 3 years doing this, I've only had 2 people really need help. Most of the time, you're going to just flow through the process until the end. And it's very common to hear, wow, that time just flew by. It felt like I was breathing for 5 minutes. Some other things, if you start to feel overwhelmed or overstimulated, there's a couple of things that you can do. Um, the first one is giving yourself supportive touch. You can really just kind of give yourself a nice hug, a supportive touch. You can also let yourself tone. It's another way of like making sound, expressing yourself through sound being helpful. So that might look like and you can also tell yourself, I am safe right now. I am safe in my body. I am safe here. And if none of those things work, remember that you can always modulate the intensity of the experience with the speed of your breath. Okay. Remember, if you have any questions about anything in this video, please send me an email. Happy to talk about it. You can also bring it up before we jump into the breathing during the actual breathwork session. So a few last things to remember. First, there's really only a couple rules of breathwork. The first one is group safety. So this is a safe container. We respect the confidentiality of all the people. There's no audio taping or videotaping allowed. That's including me. If I'm going to, take a picture or something, a screenshot, I'm going to get consent first. And the second one is the safety of yourself. So please don't harm yourself or, others or property. Other than that, anything kind of goes. So if it makes more sense for you to turn your camera off so that you can have that privacy that you need, don't feel bad about it. It's very common. Some things that you might want to prep your physical space. You might want to have some water close by, some tissues in case there is an emotional release, extra blankets and pillows. I know like right now I'm recording this in Tucson in the middle of summer and it's so hot out, but I've seen people, including myself, need blankets as I do breath work, even in those hot temperatures. So some people like chapstick, the mouth can dry out a bit, doing the circular breathing in and out of the mouth. Pillows, I can't say enough how helpful pillows can be. They can buffer you on the sides so you don't roll around too much. They can be good to help release anger or rage, or you could yell and scream into them. If you have neighbors close by or somebody else in the house, close the door, let them know if it's appropriate. Hey, you might hear some weird sounds coming from my room for the next hour. Don't worry, I'm okay. And again, remembering the breathing, full deep diaphragmatic breaths in and out of the mouth continuously with no gaps. So you're breathing a little bit deeper, a little bit faster than you normally do. And breathing through the mouth to start, but switching to the nose or alternating once you're not thinking about breathing any longer. Once you've dropped in, your breath might change. Just trust the process. Breath might fluctuate with the music. It might go in waves. It's like going through the mountain on a bike. Sometimes you're pedaling hard uphill. Sometimes you're coasting and just enjoying the scenery. Sometimes your breath might feel like you've slowed down. It might even feel like you're asleep. And most important, once you've dropped in, don't stress about whether you're breathing correctly. The breath is meant to help you drop into the deeper journey. If you're releasing emotions, immersed in your journey, don't worry about whether you're doing the breathing right. If you get stuck in that monkey mind, if it starts to come online again of like, oh, you'll notice. You'll notice when it feels like the body's breathing you and when the monkey mind starts to come back online. If it does before the music is over, just go back to that circular in and out of the mouth breathing and it'll help drop you back in. So that's about all I have to share with you. Basically, the way that the sessions go is we open the circle, might introduce ourselves, talk about intentions, just help to connect to the present. We'll go through a meditation to help relax you and get you into the body. Then we will open the container. There are some things that we give ourselves permissions for. We invite in support. We connect with the other breathers energetically. Then I will guide you into the breathwork experience. Once the music starts, I am not there guiding you and pushing you or saying, do it more, do it faster. So this is a very self-guided, self-empowered process in that way. I don't know what's happening in your process. So if you feel like doing more, going deeper with it, you can. If you don't feel like it, you can do that too. At the end of the breathwork session, I will guide you out. And so that's how you know that it's over, is that when you start to hear me talk again, I'm bringing you out with another guided meditation. That's how you know we're wrapping up. And then each circle ends with an integration sharing circle, which is a wonderful way to support and deepen your experience. It's not required, but it's definitely recommended. Sometimes being seen and heard can be so powerful, just as powerful as the breathing in itself. So again, thank you for taking the time to watch all this. I know I kind of rambled a little bit, which is why we put it in a video instead of in the breathwork session itself. If you had any questions, please don't hesitate to leave me an email or bring the question to the group. And I'm so looking forward to breathing with you and to supporting you on your journey of transformation. See you soon, my friend.